All right, let's do this.
Yeah, let's talk about test coaching.
All right, let's start with a little bit introduction.
Okay, my name is Pekka MARJAMäKI. I'm a testing preacher. It means that I preach about testing, talk loudly about it. I try to guide my flock towards the light of good quality. I'm a trainer. I train people at our office. I'm a coach. We're going to talk about that a bit later. And I've been doing testing for quite a long time, over 10 years in various positions regarding testing, test designer, test management, etc. So I live and breathe testing. And I'm a conference speaker. I like to be on stage. I've been doing some conferences. Some of you might remember me from somewhere else. But yeah, I love to be on stage. And it's so good to see so many people here today.
Yes, exactly. A couple of words about me. So I'm also a test coach with Pekka. We work at the same company. And where Pekka is an excellent tester, he's a better tester than I am. But I have a bit different background, so I've been in managerial positions a lot, and I tend to think of things from the business perspective, and the quality is one thing I care a lot about, and that's how we can complement each other on our work. And well, yeah, I'm pretty much interested in all the things, so that's why I call myself Renaissance Man. But yeah, that's about us.
Okay, this is a little bit of our company, Solita. We're a contractor company in Finland. We have offices in the Nordic countries, in Sweden, in Estonia, and we also have an office in Munich, Germany. Total of 9 offices. What we do, we have small projects, the developers doing small projects, and we also have a cloud department. We have a design department doing business designs, etc. We have a mobile department and a data department. And this is basically the mandatory company slide, so please come to talk about job opportunities and all kinds of stuff regarding Solita. We'll be happy to explain more about our company.
Exactly. So, to the topic itself, why test coaching? This started as our company Solita is a mid-sized agile software contractor company, so we develop software for other people. We don't have any products of our own, for example. And we try to be agile as possible, so the teams that we have tend to focus on generalists. So we don't, for example, have a dedicated testers in our company. So and developers are doing a lot of those test automation things, for example. And today's environment in software development is like you have to know a bit about everything. So you need to know about security, you need to know about cloud stuff, you need to know about hardware stuff, you need to know how to code, of course, you need to know how to test and so forth. So that's the kind of base where we stand on.
Just like Jani described previously, testing is seldom practiced. Our developers don't try to learn more testing. And as you can see in the graph here, it's really simplified graph from a generic developer skills. We call it the middle finger model, and where the development skills are the largest, and the other skills are a bit smaller. And then the developers try to solve all the problems using development approach. They try to automate everything. They try to make good quality by code reviews, etc. And then comes in the specialists, like us, test coaches, and
yeah, so here's where we came into the picture. So we also have agile coaches, for example, that are coaching people and teams how to be more effective in for example, Scrum or some lean methodologies. And we have security guys who can teach people how to take security into account. But we also have test coaches. So we are there to help people think like a tester and do stuff like testers do. So to keep the quality also, quality skills also above a certain threshold.
So basically what we're trying to do is go from the middle finger model into the two-finger model.
Yeah, at least.
At least, yes.
All right, so who are our clients, so to speak? So who do we coach and how? So obviously we coach our own people, our own developer teams, and people like managers and so forth. But also our customers' teams. So, for example, our customers are doing a lot of acceptance testing, and usually they don't know anything about testing, but they still need to do some of the testing. So that's one of our goals there. We can do team coaching, workshops, or one-on-one personal coaching. So depending on the need. And we do workshops and other kind of hands-on communicative things with people.
Now an example about a workshop might be something like this. So what we try to teach the developers is all the skills that are involved in software testing. Usually people think that testing is just bashing the keyboard and writing test scripts, but it's a lot more. It's about test design. It's about different kind of techniques, different tools. It's about understanding test strategy, understanding the environment where we're testing, the context of the project.
So, a little bit more about our general approach to teaching and training people how to be a better tester. We usually start from the top, and work our way down with different kind of exercises, which usually are more generic than specific. And we talk about things like testing thinking, critical thinking. We do, for example, product modeling. We use the San Francisco Depot exercise, which Jani talked about. We do test idea generation, for example, and different kind of strategy models. And we do this in a really hands-on way, so everyone is on board, no online courses, but everyone has to be there and do the stuff with their own hands and with their own minds.
So that was going down the other side of the pyramid by learning through generic exercises, but then we apply that knowledge into the own project and the team's own work. So we facilitate that change and we facilitate taking those skills into practice. And depending on the level of the skills that we're trying to teach, we customize our workshop to apply specifically on those needs.
Yeah, we can start, for example, from test design and work ourselves up from there, or we can start, for example, if we have a team of managers, it's usually more productive to start from the strategy level and try to think about that. We'll slice through the pyramid a bit more here.
Yes, let's break it down a bit so it's more easy to understand.
Yep.
So about testing technique level, we're going to skip the upmost level because you're testers. You might know what testing means. So let's go down to the techniques level. So in this level, we teach people different skills regarding testing techniques. And what we're talking about here, we think that unit testing is a testing technique in a sense that with unit tests, we actually do testing. With performance testing, that's a technique to run test cases. And the reason we have test management, session-based testing, etc. here is that these kind of things facilitate our testing. They make our testing easier. And also, Jana mentioned the checklists, heuristics, etc. We teach that kind of approach, like heuristic approach to testing, also in addition to more systematic approach.
One example of testing techniques and tools we introduce people is a thing called rebel review. And it's a kind of cross between code review and testing design. And it's a short session, about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It's a heuristic checklist, not a process, but a checklist and food for thought. It's designed to give ideas for testing. And this is for development teams to use in their projects. And here we have an example of that.
Yes, this is, I would say, a cheat sheet that can be printed out in Teams and posted on the walls of the team room, or it can be a PDF on their computer, whatever makes sense. You can actually have this PDF if you send me an email. I think on the Attendify app, when you click my name, there's the you can find my email address there, or Jani's. I'm sure he can do the same thing.
Sure.
Anyhow, we've divided this into a few categories or keywords. It doesn't mean that you have to go through all of these things. You just need to think about these things. For example, think of exceptions. If you go sit next to the developer and use this cheat sheet, you might ask the developer, have you thought about exceptions? Have you thought about logging? Have you thought about resources? And then with the developer, you generate test ideas so that your testing will be easier.
Yeah, and lots of times when you're going through this, for example, exceptions with a developer, then they might spot that they have missed something and they, oh, wait a minute, I'll get back to you, let's do this later or so. And they can improve the quality in also through this kind of thinking tool. And some teams have left out something of this, or they might be adding their own, depending on what they're working on. All right, let's dig deeper into test design domain. So here's where we learn how to design tests. And what we do here is we do product breakdowns, different kind of modeling things, analyzing, and how to take the surroundings, the context into account when you're designing the tests. And what kind of structure should your test case have, and how to generate test ideas, how to categorize those test ideas, and for example. And understanding missions in testing. What are the goals? Why do we test? Why are you designing those tests? What are the goals? And here's a picture from a couple of weeks ago from Vilnius, where we were in TestCon 2019, and we had a workshop day there where we went through all of the pyramid, starting from the top in the morning and going back up from the bottom in the afternoon. And here teams are, they have been generating test ideas on sticky notes, and now they're categorizing them, and we'll further develop these ideas into test cases.
This is really similar to the mob test design.
Yes.
Okay, and then the bottommost layer of the pyramid, test strategy. Now, we're not talking about a test strategy as a whole company level, like an umbrella test strategy. But for that specific project, we need to understand the things that affect our testing. So we need to understand the missions, the risks, etc. We need to know the quality aspect, things that we value. And we do the test design, the modeling of the product. For example, we use the SF Depot model that Jani mentioned, San Francisco Depot, and different kinds of various techniques to understand the context.
Yes.
And this is something that we use in our, I would say, context mapping. That this is more about understanding the environment where we do the testing. So we try to think about things that affect our testing and affect our test design. We need to think about risks, things that threaten the value of the project, of the testing, of the product. And we need to think about missions. What are we trying to achieve with our testing? What are the goals? And we need to think about quality. What are the things that we value? You might think these like utilities, like maintainability, testability, or security, or performance. Things that we value while we're doing the testing. And then product, we need to take product into account. For example, the structure of the product, different functions, how do these things affect our testing?
Yes, we do various kinds of projects, and the product they produce are really different from each other, so this is important.
Yes, and also we need to take project into account, the people involved, schedule, money, culture, for example. We need to take those kind of things into account. And then testing activities. What kind of like generic activities are we going to do? Performance testing, are we going to do that? Security testing, security audits. We need to take those into account in our testing.
Yes, and at the end we have two example cases. First one was a large government project regarding infrastructure project cost planning stuff. And the problem here was that the project they weren't prepared for testing. They didn't have a test strategy or a good solid test plan. So here's where we went in from the bottom. We started with the strategy, with project managers, architects, and product owners. We facilitated the creation of that strategy, and we are now following it through upwards with test design and techniques and things like that. So outcome was to create a test strategy, test plan for the project, understanding the context there you're doing it, and comprehensive skill sets, and also things like goal-based test cases versus tightly script test cases. And it was a kind of mindset switch also to the guys in the project.
And then the second example is a B2B e-commerce project. The problem with them was that they didn't have a good testing process. They didn't have the skills to do testing. So we took developers, Scrum Master, customer product owner, and we did exercises, testing exercises, test design exercises, test technique exercises. And what we achieved was a mindset switch from development mindset into tester mindset. We made some testing process enhancements. We made them understand how important proper testing is in the project.
Yes. So, to summarize things, we learn with generic exercises, then we move on to practicing in their own context when we teach teams and coach them. And we can modify our model depending on the needs of the customers.
So what we do is we learn how to test, or teach people how to test, and then help them implement that into their own testing.
Yeah. All right, we are now at the -5 seconds.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Perfect timing. And now let's see the questions of the audience.
All right. How do you change the mindset of the development team about value of testing? This is really important, and stuff like pair testing is a really good tool to make testing interesting. We just had a client whose team was, or the developers thought that testing is boring and I don't want to do it. I just write some unit tests and that's it. But we introduced the pair testing techniques to them, and just last week their project manager grabbed me by the shirt on the corridor and told that our devs really liked it, pair programming, and they have tried to do that, and we are definitely keeping that practice as it makes the testing more interesting to them. So this is one thing we need to do really often, how to think to make testing more interesting. Yeah.
Then the next question, can we find some tutorials made from you? So if you're talking about like videos, we don't really have videos about the tutorials we made or these workshops, because they're basically internal projects, so we don't video those. We have all the material. You can have basically all the material we have generated regarding test coaching, and because we're test coaches and we want to contribute to the community, we can even try to coach you people. So send us an email. We might be able to arrange, for example, a short Skype session or something like that. We reply an email. So we try to provide you with as much knowledge that we can.
Yes, and we love to give public workshops also, for example, in conferences. So that's one way of finding us also. So how can you help to think like a tester? How can you implement mindset? So this is also an important part of our daily work. And how to think like a tester? Well, for developers, every problem is a development problem, and that's the starting point, because they think in functional things. They think in features. But we introduce things like critical thinking. We do little exercises or games which helps them to see how to think outside of the box, for example, and how to question things, and how to acknowledge their assumptions on things, for example. That would require more longer explanation, but maybe you can find us later.
Just to add to that, the whole pyramid thing is part of implementing the mindset, because then they will see that there's more into testing than just the bashing of the keyboard. So that's part of what we do to implement that thinking into the developers.
Yeah.
How do you measure the effectiveness of the workshops or trainings? It's really difficult, I'm going to tell you that. So we measure it, well, it's a kind of a smile factor or a recommendation thing. So when we ask about how did the workshop go, we ask for feedback, and then they might recommend us to the next project, etc. And there's no numerical way to do it. We just try to keep us in the loop, keep us involved what they are doing, because if we, for example, go back to the team, offer some facilitating of a certain, for example, tool or technique, if they say that, oh, we don't need you, then we didn't succeed in our work.
Yeah. how many years should I spend in software testing before becoming a coach? Well, that depends. Pekka has doing testing all his work life. I maybe have been in a tester role for a 5 years period. So I started as a developer, then I moved on to the project manager, service manager type of roles. I've spent about 15 years in those roles. Then I always had an interest in quality and testing, and that's how I ended up working with Pekka to develop this internal coaching model.